So for today's notes, we are actually working on order of operation, but because you have your table of contents, I'm letting you do it in class if you have time. And so if you look at your table of contents, you have 4 new notes you need to add. The first one is order of operations, and we'll do that this week, which is week 5. The next one's powers, exponents, and square roots, and that's week 5 too. And the last thing for this week is adding and subtracting integers. And then next week we actually only have 1 set of notes, so you're welcome. It's because we have the chapter test next week. But it's multiplying and dividing integers, and that'll be week 6. So if you can get your table of contents out and fill this in, you can pause the video and get it all copied. And then make sure that you label the pages. So for example, my order of operations is page 7. Powers and square roots is page 8, and so on. Adding would be 9, multiplying would be 10. Okay? Now, looking at this, these notes are super easy because it's a review. Okay? Well, at least I'm hoping it's a review. And so, order of operations is something you should have focused a lot on last year. Okay? There's steps that you're supposed to follow when solving problems. The first one is P for grouping symbols, or parentheses is what you may have learned it as. Okay, so you have grouping symbols, which is P for parentheses. That can include multiple things. It can include your parentheses. Okay, but as you get farther, you'll see other things that will be counted as grouping symbols. Okay, the next step is E for exponents. We actually just covered some of these in our vocab, but you'll actually have a lesson on them. Exponents. So for example, 2 to the 3rd power, or 2 cubed. Next, you would look for anything that is an exponent. Okay, and if you notice, I like the hopscotch setup because parentheses or grouping symbols come first, exponents come second, but here, either one can come first. Okay, it's multiply and divide. I feel like a lot of people get confused because they think multiplying comes first. These come at the same time. Whichever one goes first in the problem goes first. So you multiply and divide. But it's super important that you remember you are going left to right. Okay, so if division comes first, then you'll do that first. It's whichever one comes first in the problem. Next, it's the same thing with adding and subtraction. You add and subtract from left to right. Okay, it's really important that these two don't go in that order. Okay, it comes, whichever one comes first in the problem is the one that you are going to do first. So now that we are done with this, our hopscotch square, you can kind of see the exact order. You have grouping symbols, exponents, multiply and divide. Okay, from left to right, so either of them can go first, and then adding and subtracting is the last thing you do. Okay, so if you notice, we have some together problems, and then you have some practice problems. I left you a lot of space underneath each problem because I want you to take the time just to write out your steps. Usually I won't make you, but in this case, I really want you to. Okay, so if we're looking at this one, okay, first we look for grouping symbols, and I don't see any. Then we look for exponents, and I don't see any. So now we get a multiply or divide on whichever one comes first. So here it multiplies first. So you have 15 times 3. And I can do that in my head. Hopefully some of you can. But if not, you're welcome to grab your calculator. 15 times 3 is 45. And then I see another multiplication problem right here, which is 12 times 2. 12 times 2 is 24. And then I'm carrying down the addition sign. So now if you look at this, we've gone through the parentheses, there weren't any. We went through exponents, there weren't any. We did multiplication and division, done. So now we just have adding and subtracting. Oh, it's kind of blurry. So now we just have to add the 45 plus the 24. 5 plus 4 gives you 9. 4 plus 2 gives you 6. And so your answer would be 69. Okay, now the next one, if we come over here, the first thing we're looking for is parentheses. Okay, parentheses, we do have some right here. So first let's do inside our parentheses. And if you notice, inside your parentheses, you actually have a multiplication and a subtraction. And so what comes first? Multiplication. So you have 6 times 3, which is 18, minus 12, squared, divided by 9, plus 7. Okay, so you have 18 minus 12, which is going to be 6. So you have 6 squared divided by 9 plus 7. Now we're done with our parentheses. And next, if you notice, is exponents. So we actually do have an exponent. It's right here. And it's squared. So squared means 6 times 6, which is 36. Divided by 9 plus 7. If you notice, I'm writing each step out all the times. All the time. Okay, next is 36 divided by 9, which most of you should be able to do in your head, but if you can't, grab a calculator, which is 4. And then you just carry the adding 7. So now we have done multiplication and division. And last we just have adding and subtracting, which is 4 plus 7, which is 11. And that would be our answer. Okay, hopefully you're getting in the hang of this and how it works with writing out the steps. It makes it much easier when I am checking or grading so I can see where exactly you went wrong as well. Okay, let's look at this one right here. So we don't have any parentheses. We do have an exponent. It's right here, 2 times 2, which is 4. So now you have to write out the whole problem, 96 divided by 4 plus 5 times 4. Okay, exponents are done. Next you have multiplication and division. So which one comes first? You have a multiply and you have a divide here. But it's whichever one comes first in the problem. You go left to right. So you have 96 divided by 4, which is 24. If you can't do that in your head, then don't worry. Just pull out your calculator and you can do it on a calculator. And then the addition sign comes straight down, and then you're going to multiply 5 times 4, which is 20. And from there, our multiplication and division is done. So now we just have adding and subtracting left, which is 44. Sorry, some students are coming in and out. I feel the need to talk.
I'm not even talking. Oh,
okay. Now for the last problem. Let's go through these. We have parentheses. You have 8 plus 22, which gives you 30. So our parentheses are done. Divided by 5 times 5. Okay, I don't see any exponents, so we're going to give that a check. And next you multiply and divide. So division comes first. This is a hard one because a lot of people want to multiply first. You don't, you divide. So 30 divided by 5 is actually 6. And then you multiply. And 6 times 5 is 30. And if you notice, there actually was no adding and subtraction. So that one was pretty easy in that aspect. Okay, and then you box the answer. Now, you have to come down here and do your practice. For this, I would like you to write out the steps just for this problem, so I know that you are understanding what you're doing. And so just on each of these, you have parentheses, exponents, multiply and divide, adding and subtracting. Parentheses, exponents, multiplying and dividing, adding and subtracting. And then as you go through the steps and write them out, just put a check mark on them, and so you can follow along. Okay?